How's everybody doing? This is Anthony Brian Logan, and today I bring you a hilarious story that comes from MSNBC of all places. Now, they were in San Diego looking at some of the border wall prototypes. The border wall prototypes are looking great. They're looking marvelous, super high, super impenetrable from the looks of it. They look great. They go there to try and do kind of a hit piece on Trump. I'll talk about the details of it a little bit later after we get done watching the clip I'm going to show you in just a moment. But they went there to do sort of a hit piece. Now, in the middle of them gathering footage, they caught something that was really crazy. And if you read the title of this video, I'm pretty sure you already know what it is. But before we get into it, what I want to do is go ahead and roll this clip, and you'll see how they set the hit piece up, what they're talking about, you know, the kind of line of reasoning they're going down. And then you're going to see the event happen, and you're going to see how they respond to it, which is also very interesting. We'll talk about that response to the actual incident, the whole hit piece in general, and also the border wall in general. So without further ado, go ahead and roll it.
Just east of San Diego, between the two existing border fences, mock-ups of President Trump's proposed border walls are coming together. What are we looking at?
There are a total of 8 prototypes, 4 of which are constructed out of concrete and then 4 that are constructed out of alternate material.
These are pretty tall.
They are 18 to 30 feet tall.
The Trump administration made that height and the construction materials a requirement. That at a time when apprehensions along the border are already on track to be as low as ever without Trump's wall. Will this lower the numbers even further?
It's hard to gauge. There's always going to be some form of crime, or in this case, illegal migration. Can we do our job better? Absolutely. And I think that these walls are going to contribute towards that.
The full wall isn't funded, only these samples built by contractors. But if President Trump can somehow convince Mexico or Congress to pay, the wall won't be as long as the one candidate Trump proposed.
So currently we have just under 700 miles of fencing along the border. We don't have any intentions of fencing off the entire southwest border. It's not necessary.
So what happens now? Does the president come out here and literally say, okay, I like that one?
We're going to test it for breachability, for the subterranean aspect. Can we dig under it? Can we cut through it? Can we scale over it?
What happened? The people are crossing. Almost on cue, a group of asylum seekers, migrants not from Mexico, jumped over the existing fence to turn themselves into border agents on horseback. It's like a small group of 3 people just jumped over in the middle of the day. Girl there with a pink backpack. Can you explain to me what's going on?
This is a reality of everyday border enforcement. Well, the United States is still the draw, the ultimate draw for people that have dire situations where they're at. We're going to continue to witness this. It plays out on a regular basis for us.
And it did just here, just now.
Just now, yeah.
Another reality, people just a stone's throw away, will ultimately determine whether Trump's wall works. We made our way to the Mexican side of the border, and this is the primary fence, the thing that Donald Trump doesn't think is big enough to keep people out of the United States. And this is the spot where earlier we saw those folks jump over the wall and into the U.S. So, what do you guys think?
Pues vemos unos muros muy altos.
It's a high wall. You think people are still going to try to cross?
De alguna forma, pues van a buscar motivos para cruzar.
Okay, so you're able to see that. You're able to see everything. Now, let's start from the top. Let's not even get into the whole border jumping. Let's start from the top. First of all, you have this hit piece they're trying to create about Trump. They're trying to say, oh, he doesn't have the money. He's not going to get it built. It won't cover the whole border. And then you had the Border Patrol agent. He's saying the right thing. He was saying, well, it's not necessary to have a border all throughout the entire border. Well, a border fence, mind you, because some of the actual border has geographic limitations that will prevent you from being able to really cross it. Okay, you could do things just like foot patrol, or maybe even drones and stuff like that in those particular areas. You got a lot of mountainous terrain, a lot of very treacherous. You got open desert. It's very difficult to get through some of those areas. That's why in large parts of Texas, there is no kind of barrier, because it's very difficult to get through right there because of the geographic limitations. OK, they didn't want to say that in the MSNBC report, but I know that from studying the whole situation. They were trying to set it up really greasy, but I'm glad they showed the border wall prototypes. Those look fantastic. Very tall, very high in the sky. I think I like the one that you could see through a little bit that had like the smaller bars. That's great. You know, if you have a loved one on the other side, you can do like you do in jail. Put your hand up to the wall and you could talk to them, you know, speak in Spanish or whatever you got to do. That's great. That's wonderful. And then also, if you're a Border Patrol agent, you're able to see through the other side to see if they're trying to break through, if they're trying to dig up underneath. That'd be great just for security purposes on both sides of the wall. But I digress, getting back to the actual video here. So they're going through the hit piece. They're trying to set it up. They're trying to say Trump doesn't have this, Trump doesn't have that, blah, blah, blah. And then you see some border hoppers just jump straight over the border. And then they get caught, of course, by the Border Patrol agents on the horses. Now, it was funny how the guy responded, the MSNBC reporter. It was funny how he responded. He was like, oh, they're not from Mexico and they're asylum seekers. What he really meant was it probably came from Guatemala, Nicaragua, or somewhere like that. And they went to the Border Patrol. So he also said that. He said that they hopped the fence, they hopped the border, and then they went to the Border Patrol agent. See, what a lot of just regular normies don't understand is that once you get caught by Border Patrol, you're not always necessarily sent back to your country of origin. Sometimes you're sent to like your nearest family in the States. You might get a plane ride. You might get all kind of accommodations. OK, that's the way it had been, at least in recent years. Maybe that's true. Maybe that's false as of right now. But if you know more about that, let me know in the box. But many times when you get caught at the border, sometimes that happens if you have family here already. So the whole thing about asylum seeking, I'm not really sure that running to the Border Patrol agent. So you go to some kind of detention facility and then get sent on a plane to the place of your choice where you got your friends and family. I'm not quite sure if that's asylum seeking. That seems more like I'm just trying to get a ride to my grandma's house, okay, from the border to Chicago, wherever they want to go. That's what that seems like to me, but I'm going to move on. Now, it was funny how they tried to spin the whole border hopping incident like, oh, well, they're trying to escape, and that's why you shouldn't have a border wall there. You got to reform immigration. You got to fix the countries that are to the south of our border because they have problems with drugs and they're seeking asylum and all this and that. They try to spin it like that. But in reality, to those of us that are awake, to those of us that have a brain in our head, we saw what that was. We saw the border hopping happening as a reason why we need that big wall. You saw my man right there on the border speaking in Spanish like, yo, it's tall. Yeah, it's tall. I'm glad that it's tall. He said they're going to try to get around it. Of course, people going to try to get around it. That's a big part of their thing. And by the way, this is in San Diego. So right across the border was Tijuana, and there's a beach right there. There's water. So maybe they're trying to get around in the water, but I'm pretty sure they have Border Patrol out there in boats. So you're not going to just be able to, get around the actual border. But at the end of the day, as I close, I think that this report just really exposed the need for a big, beautiful border wall. I've read somewhere that it's going to cost like $21.6 billion. And there's a lot of criticism coming from the left and some of the right and just regular normies out there talking about, I thought Mexico was going to pay for it. I never thought that they would come up with a check. You know, they had these real big checks when you go to some kind of charitable event, some kind of luncheon or something, some kind of black tie fair. And then they bring some girls out in their ballroom gowns with a big, gigantic paper check. I didn't think it was going to be like that. I was just like a matter of the economic costs that they're going to endure. They're going to be the ones that pay for it. Right. So that's what that is. When you build that wall up there and it prevents people from coming from Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, etc., it prevents them from being able to go straight forward. Then Mexico's got to be able to deal with them. That's going to be a cost right there. So they'll be willing to help us to fund the wall, to build the wall, to make sure that they have less people coming through to the north. Maybe they'll secure the borders more towards the south. They'll help pay for the wall indirectly. That's what I always thought. It was never going to be some kind of direct donation or check, but I digress. What do you think? Do you think that the whole border wall is necessary? It's a good thing to have. Do you want Mexico to come up with a big paper check and pay for it? Do you think the border wall is going to cost too much? Is $21.6 billion too much? And what would be the cost? Like, what's the actual benefit here? How much money do you think that the illegal immigrants are costing us in our society every year versus how much the wall is going to cost for a one-time fee? But do you think that the whole situation with the border hopping happening right there on camera illustrates how much we need the actual border wall? It was kind of funny how they had, the little girl with a backpack, all this, that, and the third. It could have been some drug mules just as easily, because I've seen on camera some drug mules hop the border as well, right, with their backpacks right on. Okay, so it ain't just going to be these poor, helpless, defenseless people like refugees. Many times it's going to be criminal cartels. And sometimes, even if you see the little girl with a backpack on, they could be human trafficking victims. So you don't always know what's really going on with somebody that looks innocent hopping across a border or commit some kind of illegal offense. At the end of the day, those that are right there on the border, they know what's going on and they know what's the best thing to do. And for me, looking on the outside into the whole situation, is pretty clear. Build that wall and build it high. But whatever your thoughts are, let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.